Hi, join me as I undertake my very first pole-lathe turning project, making a small mallet under the very helpful and kind guidance of Andrew, who is a member of the Association of Pole-lathe Turners and Green Woodworkers.
Okay, well, we're going to start with this round of ash. I'm using the froe and the beetle. I'll get you to split that. So if you look at the end of the wood there, you'll see we'll work to one of these existing splits. It gives us a clue as to which way the wood wants to go. So just line it up, put your hand up here out the way, and then just hit it as hard as you can on that line there. Probably best if you come around and work from that position there. And it should split relatively easily. That's it.
I hear it going.
Yeah. So if you get it all the way in, that's it. Try and, yeah, a bit awkward, but that's it. Nice. If you lift the whole thing down, put it on the floor, and then bracing it against your knee, if you push it away from you and your lever in this direction and stop it from moving, should just lever off.
I'll move towards me.
Yeah, so that's it. Push, or push away from you if it's easier, whatever's easier.
I can push away, it's not going yet.
That's it, there you are, you got it.
Oh,
Yeah. Just a nice clean split there. If you just use the froe to break those last few fibres. That's it, perfect. So we've got some nice even growth rings here and a split there. So what I'd suggest is we put the froe back on that split there.
Okay.
And then we'll split that. There, that's it.
That's more like it.
Oh, look at that. We had a nice hidden knot in there. Okay. We can still probably use this.
Enough length in there.
Yeah, so we'll just flip it around. So at each stage, at least initially, until we start shaping the wood on the lathe, the aim of the game is just to remove as much of the wood that we don't want with minimum effort.
Right.
So probably struggle now because we don't want to. It's a risk versus reward assessment. So we could try and split a bit more off, which would save ourselves some effort both on the shave horse and on the lathe. But we run the risk that with this nasty knot here, that wood's going to run out. So I'd probably suggest what we do for the moment is we'll saw that off now.
Yep. Okay.
So this ash was provided to us by Wakehurst, and it's ash that is all suffering from ash dieback.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if you've seen any about that in the news.
I've heard a lot about that,
Yeah. So this ash was actually taken from this clearing just here.
All right.
So it's very local. We're probably looking at having a length for the mallet about the similar length as the one I showed you.
Yes, I would think so, yeah.
Yeah, so we're going to take the mallet out of that section there, but we'll keep this section of wood because that means is that when it's on the lathe, we can wrap the string around this section.
Yep.
And then that will keep the string out of the area where we're working in.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. You'll probably want it a little bit bigger than that, but it will give you an idea of where we're working with when we split it.
Something like that.
Yeah, or even try a little bit closer if you can.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, now, have you ever used a draw knife or on a shave horse before?
I have.
I've seen you using draw knives,
Well,
I
only
think.
a little bit.
Okay.
Should be easier on Greenwood.
Should be, especially with ash, yeah. So, yeah, so you've got a couple of options. You can either work to the circle,
Yep.
or you can work to a square, around imaginary square around the circle.
Okay.
It's sometimes easier because when you're working with the shave horse, the easiest cut is a parallel cut directly towards you.
Yep.
So if you're using it like this or like this, then you're not as much control as if you're using it directly towards you. I would work one end complete first, and then that end being narrower, it will help with holding it in the shave horse. That's it. So now you can.
Around that, or
I would now flip the piece of wood and then try and replicate that similar on the on the other side. So the circle, remember, is only for guidance. It doesn't matter if you cut the line off. When you're taking all the high points off, it'll be much easier because the contact between the blade and the timber is so much less. Try and use the sort of full length of the workpiece as much as possible. So if you then just bring it close to the line in that section, then it'll be harder to work that section. So yeah. That's it. Try and have the blade almost sort of back up to the top of the vise when you can each time. Obviously it's not always possible, but that's it. And if you can just split it like that, so if you get it in at the top, just tilt the draw knife like that, and you're almost using it like you're using the throw, and you can just pull a split the whole length. That's it, nice. Great wood for this sort of thing, ash. It works nicely. It tends to be relatively straight grained.
renowned for handles on brooms and stuff, isn't it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think it's about the best UK hardwood we have for that sort of thing. I mean, obviously, don't have to tell you, but hickory and other sort of non-native woods are obviously very good as well. But
I think this end is.
I think it's there. Yeah, I think so. So you can spin it round.
Is there an adjustment to make the moves in there?
Yep. What would you?
One, or is it not quite enough?
To reduce the height?
Yeah.
Yep.
Just about.
I'd spin that round now. Okay. If you just take a little section off there, and then I'll show you a little trick that we'll do with the lathe that will help to bring it into round. Yeah. So when we're putting it on the lathe, we've got a couple of options. We can either do it by eye, or I just quite often use a centre finder. Obviously just simple tool, but if you put it on the lathe and it is out of centre, then you're turning away a lot of wood that you don't necessarily need to turn away.
Yeah.
So
Centering it with that.
just helps.
Absolutely.
So obviously setting the lathe up, just need to move the centres. So just tap that out. It's just friction wedged in place. Find our centre at that end. Hold that in place. Find our centre at that end. Then we've got a bit of adjustment in the headstock here, so if we just fix it in place there. good catch. So, because I'm going to get you to this next bit, reach past the string, pull it towards you. 1, 2.
Clockwise on the left hand side, okey-doke. So moisture in the wood do the lubrication?
No, I'll show you what we're going to do about that. So that's it, just find that, and then if you treadle with the treadle, just to sort of see what the resistance is like. How does that feel? Does it feel quite stiff? Does it feel quite easy?
Pretty
or
easy, I would say.
Okay, so we'll tighten it up a little bit. About there?
Starting to get a bit of resistance.
Yeah, so we'll just turn it back a little bit, and then we will lock it off with that. But what we'll do now is just take it out again. So that should just slip off. Of course it doesn't typically. And then I use beeswax.
Oh right, yeah.
So just push it into the centres at either end. You'll just pinch a bit off. That's it. That's all you need.
Yep.
And then same process. Just have to get the centres established to give you a little recess for the beeswax. There you are. So just find your treadling again.
Very easy. Actually, do you want to do this bit and then I'll feel what that tension is that you're looking for?
Yeah, yeah. So you're looking for something about like that. So not too hard, not too soft either. So you see the treadle, there's a pivot point in the centre there.
To stop this happening.
That's how we control the string.
Okay.
So if we want the string to move this way across the lathe, then we point that way.
Yep.
We want the string to move this way, so just kick that over like that. And if you treadle, you'll see the string will travel back up the piece of wood. So for this kind of piece of wood, this kind of project, we'll probably keep that tip over this way all the time, just to make sure that the string doesn't disappear off that end of the wood.
If you've got that taper, it shouldn't go any further.
Yeah. If it does though, that's fine. We just
Keep a watch on it.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So not the first tool we normally start with, but we want to find a demonstration of how out of round the piece of wood is.
Okay.
So just a spindle gouge.
Yep.
And what we'll do is, if you start treadling, and then same principle with any turning, you obviously want to rest the bevel on the piece of wood.
Yeah.
That's it. And then just, that's it. So if you do a little bit of turning, say here, bit here, bit here, bit here, bit here, and then we'll see where the high spots are and and then what we can do is we can take it off here and put it back on the shave horse, and it'll be much easier to take that excess wood off.
Okay. Is this to a point where I've got a full contact all the way around?
Not necessary. I mean, we can do if you'd like, but the trouble is that if it's really out of round, to get full contact all the way around, we'd probably be channeling that chisel, and that would be pinching on either side of the chisel. So give yourself some sort of height marks, I'd call them, to work to. That's it.
Close enough together?
Yeah, that's fine, yeah. Perfect.
Probably not going to want to go further that.
So let's unlock that. So obviously as we look down the piece of wood, you can see that that's fine, we're not hitting that yet, so we'll use the shave horse to take these sections out here, and then we'll leave that, once we put this back on the shave horse, we'll leave this entire section alone. So we'll just work from here round to here and take that down.
Okay.
That's all right, you adjust and change it, and we can move it if needs be. It's about making it comfortable for you, so got to remember this shave horse was built for me, so you're a lot taller than me, so I would have my legs at almost full stretch using it.
You've probably got more power with pole-lathe.
Probably, yeah. We need another hole back here for you, really. So if you'd have let that split run out, yeah, so that's a much better idea. Well done. Thinking, always thinking. We can put it back on the lathe now.
Use the normally spindle gouge to establish a diameter, really, haven't we?
Yes, yeah. I'll just give that a wee strop. So these tools are carbon steel as opposed to, say, high-speed steel that you use on a power lathe.
Yep.
So it means it's really easy to sharpen them in the field. It's much softer than HSS.
You've got the lower speed and you've got the moisture in the wood, so it doesn't get too hot.
Yeah. Same, I mean, you obviously talked a bit about this in the other little video you did with the pole lathes, but obviously it's a reciprocal lathe. The way that we explain it to the kids is it's the same as a pencil sharpener. So you spin the wood, your pencil, and you hold the metal still. So if you rest the tool against there and then control it, try and have your hand as low as down as the tool is comfortable, and then brace yourself by putting your elbow on there. That's it.
Move my string down a little bit. Most of that's crept up.
Yep, that's fine. It will settle in a position that it wants to. Nice. So remember, cutting on the downstroke, that's it.
That's the real difference, the thing that takes a bit of getting used to.
Oh, very much so, yeah. But you settle very quickly into a nice rhythm, and I can see you already have, really, of just withdrawing it. So second pass, perhaps slightly slower, just don't worry about that. That's where the shave horse, the split on the shave horse, will turn that out.
Slower in the speed or the...
So you always want to keep the treadle at a constant action, so you want as long a treadle action as you can, but just at a steady pace. But yeah, if you move slowly across the piece of wood, then obviously you won't get quite as deep gouges. That's it. And feel free to sort of move up and down the lathe as you...
It's tricky with one foot.
Yeah, yeah. Nice. So you started to do it naturally, but as you get it in round, you just drift the chisel across the piece of work, which helps you to produce not end up with something that's got all the lumps and bumps in it.
So you've reached a point where you're riding the bevel the whole time rather than...
Yeah, well, you're never constantly riding the bevel because you're always withdrawing the tool for the return stroke. But yeah.
But now it's almost round. The amount of withdrawal is a lot less.
Yeah. That's it. So what we're going to do now is, because the speed of the lathe is dependent on the contact between the string and the piece of wood, we've just been doing roughing out at this stage, so that's not critical. But what you don't want is the lumps and bumps that you get from this piece of wood not being perfectly round, and therefore there not being a constant drive.
Right.
So if the string is not tight to the wood, You could, as I say, a small gap there, created by the high points, then you don't get a consistent drive on the piece of wood.
Okay.
So we've roughed that out now. So what we're going to do is, got a couple of options. If you're feeling adventurous, you can try and turn it close to the string. If you want, we can just turn the piece of wood round.
Let's turn the piece of wood round because I don't want to break the string.
Okay, well there's plenty of extra string, so that wouldn't be a problem if you did.
So just set up on the other end,
Same principle. And you'll notice straight away that even with the left-hand side only roughed out, it will be a much smoother action than. And when you've got to where you want it, lock it out, perfect. Nice. Good stuff. Excellent. Right. Now what we're going to use next, the next tool is called a board chisel or a finishing chisel, but this is the planing cut that's going to give us a smooth finish.
Okay.
So that's this chisel here. Again, we'll just try and make sure that it's in prime condition. We don't want to be giving you substandard tools to work with. It's pretty sharp.
Are you using this as like a scraper cut or?
No, it's very much
Like
it's very much a planing cut.
Okay. Yeah.
So you same principle, rub the bevel.
Yeah.
When we'll start you off at quite an oblique angle, and then as you build confidence, what you can do is you can bring more and more of the bevel into contact with the wood.
Okay.
So some of the guys that I learnt from, you see them using the almost like that, but it's so easy to catch.
Catch the point.
And when you do that, you can ruin a whole piece of work. So I would start quite an oblique angle. So you can either you're right-handed, I presume.
Right-handed.
Yeah.
So easier that way.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
Would I finish that end first? Or?
I would, but it's up to you. I mean, have a go. So don't forget to withdraw. Although it doesn't have to be as pronounced, obviously, as with the roughing gouge. That's it. That's nice. So come from about here, and we'll try and work completely off the end. Lovely. That's it. And that's all we need now, because we'll put the string there now.
Okay, yeah.
So it's great to start using that on the bit that doesn't matter, because that's obviously only our mandrel, and we're going to make the mallet out of that end. So just let the end drop, that's it.
Oh, that'd be nice.
There we are. That's it. It should feel a lot smoother, a lot easier.
Yeah. So now all the way down from here.
That's it. That's it. Just slightly too flat, so just caught the edge a little bit. Yeah, that's fine. Lovely. So if you find it's furring up too much, so just start from here, work back and smooth it and smooth it and smooth it, smooth it. So it's just tearing up a little bit too much, which probably means we're just trying to take too much. So just start here and work back a little bit.
Or if I should...
Yeah, whatever. You. If you're confident enough to walk towards the string, I'm happy to let you.
Working better if I move the string a bit further along.
Sure, yeah. That's it, yep. So, we've now got a round piece of wood with a mostly smooth finish. We'll tidy this up in a minute. But before we start taking too much off, we'll just start thinking about what we're making. We're going to put in some marks. Yep. So we probably want to retain as much of this section here as we want. So if you use the pencil to tread in your marks, so what I'd do is I would give yourself a bit of space at the end, so that the end of your mallet hasn't got the hole in it, so we can cut that off. Yep. So just come in a bit, then set out a space for the head. So you can use your hand to set out a space for your hand, and then give yourself a bit of the bottom to work with. If you want to have a section like that on the end, if you want to just come straight off, then it's not so critical.
Well, it's a to get a section on the bottom.
Yeah.
I think
Perfect. Okay. So we're going to go back to using this.
Right.
Because this is the most effective tool for removing wood. So, thank you.
Take that down to a comfortable hand grip.
Yep, or close to, and then we'll finish it off. So you can hear the difference between a nice clean cut and a slightly more raggedy cut. And that's, a lot of the time we just go on feel and the noise it makes.
Yeah, that feels good.
Yeah. Okay.
Get it clean up.
Yeah. So if you're confident enough, you can use this one.
I'll try it.
Okay, perfect. That's what I like to see. So you have got a little bit of material. If you look over the piece of wood, sort of down to the ground while you treadle, so if you treadle out, you can see that there's sort of a slight hump here. Yeah. So you probably want to make that parallel. So try and...
That's what I was aiming for.
Oh, fine, okay.
It makes it complicated, doesn't it?
Okay, in which case, no, you won't want to use that. You'll want to use the skew. Yeah.
I'm more used to these.
Okay. So obviously...
I'm not very good with them though.
Don't worry, neither am I. It's definitely the most difficult tool to master. So just retaining that sort of edge, just work into there and then down.
Goes down into the groove, isn't
it? So it's that same planing cut. Just go nice and slow. Don't try and take too much at any one time. That's it. And these sorts of shavings that you're producing, that's exactly the sort of shaving you want to be producing.
The finishing shaving,
yeah.
Okay. I'm going to have to accept it's got a little hole in it.
That's fine. You can turn a bit of the width out. That's it, really nice, really nice. So just bring the tool around a bit. So as you're coming in like that, if you can bring the tool just more like that, what you can do is you can finish the bottom of that curve out. That's it. Try and keep that bevel flat on the finishing shape that you want. So that's it. Yeah. So now come in it. Yeah. Yeah, that's it. Try and think about taking that planing cut as the wood comes towards you. That's it. So just by flattening out that chisel, you can make the finish flatter. Yeah, that's it. You could spend all day trying to chase that out. Yeah. So now the other end. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the spindle gouge again. So if you use the toe of the chisel, the long edge, to against the work like that, and just dig in to make a distinct line where your pencil is. That's it. Just a little bit more, and just to get some depth into there. That's it. Lovely. And do the same on that line there. Yep. Now use the long edge again, just to create a little shoulder. So just using it like that, just cut out that. That's it. Perfect. Just a little bit deeper. Yep. No, that'll be fine. And then do the same both sides of that groove. That's it. So you just start forming the bottom there. Then using the spindle gouge, just use that shoulder that you've created to register the spindle gouge, so that the spindle gouge shouldn't kick this way or that way. So just on the downstroke, push it in slow and steady. That's it. So then working both sides, so that side and this side, just drop the height of the finished handle to whatever diameter you want. So probably something like that sort of diameter. So you've got what, a couple of eighths or an eighth to go there. Come at it from the other way. That's it, yeah, just tidy it up like that. And then to create a much steeper cut, so you could quite easily do a similar thing there, but we're getting dangerously close to the string. So a different way of forming a groove is to solely use the skew rather than the cutting in and the, yeah. So just make that V deeper and deeper. Start with the toe, that's it, just to reassert the low point of the bead.
Like that?
Yeah, and then that's it. And then so cut the bead again. That's it. And then that's it. Okay, now how confident are you feeling with the skew? So what you can do now is using the heel, is if you put the heel roughly in the middle of the block that we're going to have on the end, just treadle very gently and just use the tip of there to just raise the fibres. So if you want practice over here, but just on that line where you can see that it's already raised, just dig in enough to just raise the fibres. That's it. So that's exactly what you want to do to start there. Then once you've got that line, that's the line that you can follow down there. So as you work from there, and as you you'll slowly move the chisel this way, and as you do it, also rotate the chisel like that, and that will give you a nice smooth curve from this point down into that point there. Hopefully. That's fine. So now go back to your starting point and do the same thing. That's it. That's it. Nice. So rotate that chisel around. That's all right. It's just spiraled. So you've got a couple of options. You can either try and take it out completely, which in which case you'd have to start raising the fibres here and then turn over that spiral, or just ignore it, carry on back here and just tidy up the sort of the majority of it.
I think it's a good reminder for me. Just raise a little bit.
That's it. That's it, yeah. That's a nice finish.
Thank you.
So now,
Same on the other side.
same on the other side. One of the key points is with the skew is you don't want to try and finish the shape with your first pass. You've got to turn to that point slowly.
Just
So
taking a little bit at a time.
yeah.
I'm very much a self-taught turner, so
Good,
probably
good.
use
That's the
different
best.
techniques.
No, there's no.
And I haven't done an awful lot with the skew. Usually the planing cuts for finishing.
Yeah. Well, as much as anyone can teach you,
Nothing like practicing, is there?
exactly, nothing like working out a way of doing it yourself.
Almost there.
So the steeper the skew finishes, obviously the more dramatic the cut will be. So the hardest thing is, that's it, just picking up that cut nice and slowly, and then just keep that treadle action consistent, and then pushing it, just that's it. So yep, so nice. So you can see how you've formed that bead either side.
Yeah.
So what I would do now is still using the skew to make that planing cut, start back here, but then instead of working like this with it, just put an ever so slight angle on it, just so that you're smoothly working. So there, and then we'll start there, and then we'll start there, and then we'll finish with one long planing cut from there all the way down into that groove there.
Okey-doke. Is that starting it with a little...
Starting with the same principle, so use the heel to pick up the fibres. Just keep chasing it down into that groove. If you need to clean the fibres out, come at it from the other way again, just so you can see what you're doing. So, use it, because you've already got the fibres raised, so use that to register the skew, that's it. From the other side, that's it. Lovely.
It's getting close.
Yeah, so you can leave that for the moment, because remember we still probably want to try and back from there, so you'll raise more as you go across. So that's it. Start with it nice and flat, pick up those fibres. Lovely.
It's a bit of a step. I can come back to that one, can't I? and
Yep.
start it.
Yep. lovely.
One
So
final one from the middle.
Yep, yep. And then when you've done that, we'll clean, if there's any fibres in there, we'll clean them out, and then we'll finish the top end. So also just think about when you raise the fibres, use the very heel, but when you start the cut, the bit of the chisel you want to use is somewhere between the heel and the toe.
Okay.
So, because if you use too much of the heel itself, then the wood will, you'll dig in too much. Okay. And you won't be able to sort of get a nice gentle curve that you're looking for. That's it. We just try and keep that line going with the raised fibres, so that's it.
It's landing on it again after you've pulled it back.
That's the trick, that's the hard bit, that's the art, yeah. Okay, so yeah, just come at it from that side to clean that out. That's it, lovely. So, should you want to try and clean that tiny bit up? It's going to be a tricky cut. You could end up chasing that all day. It's up to you.
I think we'll leave that.
Okay. So, we're going to basically do the same thing, but just on the end here.
Okay.
So that's your low point. So just think about what you did here and do that here. So
we dig in. Let's see if I can remind.
Yep.
Remember. So dig in.
To form the low point.
Cut in from both sides.
Yep.
And then plane in. From
Yep.
that side.
Correct.
Okay.
Don't worry, that's the end. You're cutting that bit off.
When, where I wanted to start from,
so with your planing cut, that's it. Yeah. No worries, that's fine. Ignore that bit because we'll flatten that bit off anyway. Yeah. So just pretend like it didn't happen and start raising the fibres from there. Nice shavings. There's an odd compliment for you. Perfect.
Okay, happy with the top of that.
Yeah. So back to the planing chisel, finishing chisel, broad chisel, whatever you want to call it.
And this is the
that way or that way. But just try and start from just where your line is and work across there. Unfortunately, definitely a lot slower than the power lathe when you're learning.
It's a lot quieter.
It's a lot quieter, and you can do it in the middle of nowhere without any electricity. So what's happening there is, it's no criticism of you. I'm just explaining is that we're actually turning slightly uphill, which you can't do.
Okay.
So, but that's only because it's slightly narrower than it is here, and we're turning it out. So you can just keep going, and as long as you're keeping the chisel nice and flat and level, what you leave behind should have a nice finish to it. Or if you can come at it from the other end, yeah.
Let's try it then.
So getting it started is always a nervy bit.
Is it the same thing and cut a...
Yeah.
I don't need to now, made a big crush on it.
It's just, the reason it's catching is just because it's caught once now. It's always a pain when that happens. If you, it's probably because of the proximity of that, you can't quite get the angle on it, but finish it up from this way. Yeah, and we'll just persevere with the fact that it's going to fluff up.
get some of the depth out of
Yeah,
it first.
exactly.
Whether it's the wood or me, it's definitely easier from this end.
That's the way I would do it, so. Nice. I even saw you tilting the chisel there a little bit just to start finishing that down into there.
I think I'm almost there.
Yeah. I mean, the broad chisel is only a single-sided skew, so if you wanted to and if you were confident enough, you could finish it all the way down into there with this. But, you know,
Maybe another time.
maybe go number 2.
Pretty happy with that.
Yeah, good. So normally what we do now is we put a little bit of decoration on it. So what we can do is we can put some little marks on it, and then we can use a skew to just cut a little line. And then we use a piece of stainless steel wire,
Right.
and it will burn a mark in. It's quite an attractive finish.
Yeah.
You want to give that a go?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so if you put a pencil mark everywhere you want to put a burning line, normally on a mallet we'd do sort of top and bottom and maybe one on the handle or something like that.
Find the striking zone.
Yep.
And one through the middle.
Yep. Sounds good. Okay, so
Probably somebody's copyrighted design.
that's all right. It's yours now. So we use the skew to do the same thing we did before, as if you're marking a bead. So that's it. Yeah, just to register a tiny groove to give the wire something to roll in.
Nearly got it wrong.
So, yeah.
Are they deep enough?
Probably just a touch deeper, but not a lot deeper. So what I would do is, instead of using the toe
Yep.
to cut both sides, just use the line you've cut like that and have it so that you basically cut both sides.
to widen it a little
yeah.
bit.
So just nice consistent treadle action. That's it. Probably no more than that.
Okay.
It's impossible, obviously, as you're well aware, to put the wood back. So if the wire won't register, we can always cut a little bit more out.
I've had a good try now and again.
Okay. So put your one hand on the wire from here, put it in the string in the gap that you want, and then just hold that. You're going to need to not only hold it quite firmly still, but treadle quite hard,
Okay. Give it a go.
and you'll smell it when you get it right.
Oh, do I have to release on the back?
Yeah.
Okay,
Well, we're
that's
only
more tricky.
only when you. That's it. You can see it's starting to heat already because you can see the steam coming off it, and now smoke.
Good.
That's it.
Lovely.
Do you want to try and clean up the furry edge there?
Yeah.
So what you want to do is the same. Yeah, it's hot. Don't touch it. It'll cool down pretty quickly. So obviously I'm giving you the smallest skew, and you really just want to tickle that edge. So all you really want to do is just do the same principle as with the raising the fibres, as if you were turning it. So just start just behind the cut,
Okay.
and just when you raise those fibres, they should just come off. In fact, what we might even be able to do is it might be fine enough that you can burnish them out.
Okay, let me try that. Doing it at the last minute, do I?
Yeah, looking good.
Yeah, another handful, I think I would do this.
Fantastic. So just take it out the lathe. It'll flick up, so just keep a hand on it. That's it.
Determined to wear me out.
Yeah, well, yes, the skin of it.
Lovely.
A finished product.
Super. Look at that, folks. Wonderful. Thank you very much.
Anytime.
Did you build this one yourself?
This lathe was built to a pattern developed by my good friend over here. So you can see they're very similar. But it's a lot of the designs are, if not traditional, sort of, there's only a certain number of ways that you can build them. So this is
4x2s, you know.
yeah. So this is a double bed design.
Yep.
So the poppets sit in the middle. You can have a single bed where your poppets have two sides and you wedge through, so they just sit over a single bed. I just prefer the double bed. Perhaps slightly more stability from movement in this direction. Slightly unusual design in that it's got an attached tool rest, so that can just be a completely separate piece of wood that you just push against, just lean against when you're turning. So this is one of Mike's little innovations.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
So you can adjust it in and out for any width of turning.
Could even do tapers with it.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
yeah,
a good
if you
idea.
wanted. So if you've got a wider piece at that end, you just wind it out that end. So I turned this morning. It's just a candlestick, just messing around with turning season wood. So obviously it's a very old piece of chestnut, and I didn't turn the bottom. So when I was turning on that, I had the tool right out there, so in there and out there.
How does it turn when you're away from the rest?
It's yeah, I mean,
not as scary as a power one.
No, because it's moving at much slower speed. Yeah. So you know when you want it to be as close as you can. Same principle with a power lathe, but as long as you're supporting the tool and you're rubbing the bevel, whether you're there or there, you don't run the risks that you do with the power lathe that it will catch the tool in the same way.
And of course, it knocks down, goes in the back of the car, I guess.
Certainly does. Yeah, the legs come out, they fold up flat. And then take these bolts out here, and the bed comes together, and then the poppets come out.
And you stand your pole out the roof rack.
Yeah. So it's obviously all detachable.
I see myself knocking one up.
Please do, and there's plans available on the website, on the Bodger's website. So have a look, or if come along and we can sort of talk you through it. And say there's quite a few designs, and you'll probably never keep the first one you make, but then maybe the time you make the second or third one.
Something you don't like about it.
Yeah. So I hope you had fun.
I really did. Thanks very much.
No problem.
And if you're interested in finding out more, then
It's the Association of Pole-lathe Turners and Green Woodworkers.